Hello and welcome to Simple Country Place. I have 4 super easy, delicious meal ideas for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, welcome, and enjoy. The first thing I'm making is cheeseburger stuffed shells. So I have some ground beef browning that I'm adding a diced onion to and letting that kind of cook together. For seasonings, I added Montreal steak seasoning, seasoned salt, and black pepper. Once that meat was cooked through, I drained the grease using that paper towel method, and then I'm adding a smidge of tomato sauce for like the ketchup aspect, if you will. A smidge of tomato sauce, also Worcestershire sauce, and stone ground mustard. So I kind of like base this off of how I would season burgers and things like that. So that is where my mind's at. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's what happened. So once that's mixed all together, I just covered it and let that simmer for a while, for all of the juices to come together. So it's been simmering for a while. I took it off the stove and I'm adding pickle relish to it and that triple cheddar shredded cheese mix, because it's cheeseburger shells, so you need the pickles. I mean, me and my husband both love pickles, so I needed that aspect, and then of course the cheese. So for like the shells, I have a baking dish that I put like a thin layer of tomato sauce on the bottom, and again, like I just kind of winged this and like constructed it like I would kind of like obviously other types of stuffed shells, but like lasagna too. So I sprayed the bottom, put the tomato sauce down, and then I'm adding that meat mixture to cooked shells, like partially al dente cooked shells, and throwing that into the casserole dish. Once those are all stuffed in there, I added the rest of that can of tomato sauce on the top, and then some more shredded cheese, and then I covered that and put that into the oven. And essentially just let like all of the flavors come together, everything to heat up, the cheese to melt. And I served that with a side salad. And my husband really liked this. The nephew liked it. He likes basically anything pasta. So I will make this again. On this night, I made honey chipotle pork chops. And so I have like super thin cut pork chops. I don't know. If I was physically in the store, I wouldn't have bought these, but I always do grocery pickup. So, I mean, they were like paper thin, super thin. Anyways, I seasoned them with chipotle chili powder, that smokehouse maple seasoning, and salt and pepper to both sides. And then I just threw them in a pan and seared them on both sides. And once they were seared and I flipped them, I added honey on top of them. So like, as you can see, I was struggling with the honey. It's crystallized and don't come at me. But so I put the honey on top of each pork chop and then covered it and let that melt. And I served that with green beans and cheesy mashed potatoes. And my husband really liked this. It was too spicy for my nephew. I mean, he ate most of his pork chop, but he's like, oof. I mean, it was a struggle for him. So, if you like spice, that's a good thing. But on this day, I made chicken bacon ranch sandwiches. So I have chicken breast that I'm cooking in there. To that I added ranch seasoning, some Montreal steak seasoning, and salt and pepper, and let those cook through. And then once they were cooked through, I cut them up into like bite-sized pieces. So now I'm working on the sandwich bits. I have hamburger buns that I'm using ranch as the dressing. And then I'm putting sliced provolone down on each sandwich, adding the chicken, and then I had also cooked some bacon that I'll be adding to that. And our people like fully cooked bacon, not any of like the floppy aspects. They want like crisp bacon. So that's what we always cook, or what I always cook. So adding bacon to each of those, and then on top of the bacon, I'm adding another slice of cheese, mostly because, as you can see, I was struggling. Like, it's getting pretty hefty, and I wanted like the cheese to kind of like melt around it and like hold everything together. So once I added another piece of cheese, I put those under the broiler for a few minutes to melt that and crisp them up. And then I served that with some oven baked potatoes and fresh carrots. And my husband loved this. We had a friend over this day. He really loved it. He was like, I need to get this recipe. So it was a win. And on this day, I made chili cornbread casserole. I've made this before on my channel. I have ground beef that I'm seasoning with chili powder and letting that cook through. I also added freeze-dried chives and salt and pepper this day. I mean, the concept is the same, but I make this different every time, just depending on the seasonings and what I'm feeling that day. And apparently I felt like throwing in freeze-dried chives, so... Once that was cooked through, I had some chili that I had made like homemade and froze the leftovers. So I have some of that I pulled out of the freezer, and I'm adding like about a half of that bag. I literally have no clue how much it is, but just a chunk. And as you can see, it's still frozen. So I broke that up and mixed it around as best I could, but then I just covered that and let the chili heat up. and then mixed it really well and had like the extra meat. Like the chili that was frozen had meat in it, but for this I always add extra meat. So it's like a meatier like base for the casserole. Once that was all heated up, I added that to a prepared casserole dish, and then adding a layer of shredded cheese. Sometimes I do like salsa con queso or like nacho cheese, like liquid cheese, whatever you want to call it. This day I added shredded cheddar cheese, and then I have cornbread that I just had out of like the box, the Jiffy stuff that I had prepared, and I'm adding that to the very top. And then once I like smoothed that out as best I could, I put that in the oven, and literally you just have to sit there and wait for the cornbread to cook. So like as the cornbread cooks, the meat mixture will come together. I mean, everything's already cooked, and then the cheese will melt and all the flavors will combine. And I just served that with some steamed broccoli, and this is always one of my husband's favorites. So thank you so much for watching. Please come back for future videos.